I'm super excited because I'm here with one of my dearest friends, Robin Stark from Starkland Cellars. I always want to say Ventures. Starkland Cellars, and she's not only a dear friend but also a wine expert, and we actually did meet through wine, and we've had a lot of adventures in wine, and we will have more. But you know, since I've become a clean drinker, I've changed a little bit some of the taste I like. I used to love Chardonnay, and I think because I don't need a lot of sugar now, sometimes I find them too sweet. And the other thing I realized was that some of the Chardonnays were making me a little bit sicker the day after. And she was really happy because she's always preached for, you should be drinking white Burgundy, not Chardonnay. And I was like, I was not into it. But little by little, because of my taste buds changing and my health, I'm becoming more sensitive to what I was drinking, I decided to give it a try. And now I really like it. Although I don't drink very often, when I drink, I love white wine, I love white Burgundy. And today I wanted Robin to share with us what is so great about white Burgundy, and obviously with a big focus on health and obviously weight, because definitely wine does affect our weight. And you know, if we want to drink, we at least want to drink the healthier versions and one that doesn't impact us as much. So here is Robin Stark.
Great.
Welcome, Robin.
Thank you. And I brought 2 white Burgundies. One is kind of like a little entry-level white Burgundy in the $20 price range, and another is a little fancier. So we're going to drink both of them. We'll have a little taste in a minute. But, you know, I've always been a real believer that you should think globally, eat locally.
Yes.
And, you know, I know you do that. You go to the farmer's market, and not only is the food you're going to have, the fruits and vegetables, they're going to be a lot healthier and grown in more natural, organic methods, but they also have a smaller carbon footprint. Mm-hmm. And I love that about wine. You know, if we drink California wines, it's drinking locally. But there's a lot of great red wines from California, and I just haven't had a lot of luck finding white wines, especially Chardonnay from California, that I find make me feel as good or that really express the Chardonnay grape the way they do from France, from Burgundy, which is the home of Chardonnay wine. And they've been making Chardonnay wine there for hundreds and hundreds of years.
And what I like is that you don't really have to spend hundreds of dollars. We're talking here, she picked, you know, 2 different points, and they're going to be, I'm sure, amazing, because every time you pick a wine, I know we don't really have to spend a lot of money. We just need to have you by our side.
That's right. These wines came all the way over from France. They had to fly over or come on a boat, but because the actual land cost is so much cheaper, it actually isn't. It's about the same price. Yeah. So here's like the problem with California Chardonnay. If you go to Burgundy, which is kind of close to Dijon, if you know that northern region of France, it's a lot colder than California. So in California, it's a little too warm, really, for the Chardonnay grape to have its true expression. Okay. So what happens is when the grapes get riper, the way they do in California, you get higher sugars when they pick, just like if you grew tomatoes in a really warm area. And when you have higher sugars, that leads to having higher alcohol. And when a wine has higher alcohol, that's immediately going to be more calories, and you're just not going to feel as good.
Why exactly would more alcohol be more calories?
Well, the reason is that alcohol is the #1 source of calories for almost anything that you drink. You know, if it's wine or if it's any kind of liquor, it's the alcohol that has the high calories. And so low alcohol beers have lower calories, low alcohol wines have lower calories. And the reason that the sugars lead to higher alcohol is that when we ferment the wine, we take the grape juice, and if there's lots and lots of sugars in there, when it ferments, when the yeasts eat the sugars and then they kind of burp out alcohol, if there's lots of sugar, there'll be more alcohol.
Okay.
So any warm region is going to make wines with higher alcohol. Cooler regions like Germany and northern France make lower alcohol.
And what can you tell us about, you know, I'm very passionate about toxins. Not that I want to have toxins, on the contrary, we need to get toxins out of our bodies if we want to be healthy, thin and happy, because toxins affect your brain, affect your body and everything. I know I feel it, but you know a lot about toxins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Wine, like I said, is it is an antioxidant. And wine is very, very good for you. And we know because of the Mediterranean diet that if you drink a little bit of wine every day, it's actually healthy.
Okay. What is a little bit of wine?
I think that with the Mediterranean diet, they were saying like a 5-ounce glass a day. So it's like a large glass or 2 very small glasses of wine. And because of the antioxidants, and sometimes people believe it's just because it relaxes you a little bit, and that is part of a healthy Mediterranean diet. The toxins usually come into play when you're talking about like large manufactured wines, because I don't want to name names, but we know who the big California wine producers are, and you see these wines all over in the supermarket and in Bevmo, and in manufacturing them, there's a couple things that they do that you won't find in most white Burgundies. First of all, they're going to put a lot more sulfites in there, and that's for preservation reasons, and you don't really need all those sulfites. So a small percentage of people really have major sulfite reactions, and a lot of people have little sulfite reactions. Well, so these white Burgundies are going to have a lot less sulfites. Secondly is the natural yeasts. In California, they mostly manufacture the yeast, so it's coming out of a package, and they mix that with the grape juice, and then that starts the fermentation.
Like older California wines, or just the larger?
The larger ones. There's a couple organic, natural wine producers, but they tend not to make Chardonnay. They're making other grapes because they kind of agree with me that Chardonnay is not really the right grape for California.
Okay.
So, in Burgundy, because they've been making Chardonnay wine for so many centuries, they have natural yeast, and so there's no manufactured yeast. That just the fermentation process just naturally happens. It's sitting on the grapes and in the vines and in the in the wineries, and they take the grape juice and it naturally happens. So you're not having manufactured yeast, you're not having as much sulfite, and you've got much lower alcohol.
Yeah, so no wonder I feel a lot better whenever I drink white Burgundy than I do white Chardonnay. And definitely, the weird thing is I used to think like an organic wine would be gross, but actually most French Burgundies are organic. They just don't use the name organic, but organic means they're not using pesticides. And I don't know if you guys know, but grapes are among the most toxic, or the fruits that have the most toxic or pesticides residue, according to the environmental working group. And so grapes are always on the top 12, which means they, no matter how much you rinse them, they have a lot of residue. And of course, grapes are used for wine, and a lot of the vineyards, if they're not the largest, if they're not the most exclusive ones, they do use a lot of these type of chemicals that are very bad for our body.
Yeah, and that's one more reason to drink white Burgundy, because Burgundy is the #1 region for using organic methods, and actually an even more organic method called biodynamique, where they get really, really deep into everything has to be completely organic if it's biodynamique, and that's how it is. Yeah, that's
great, because one less thing we have to worry about our environment and the food we eat and the products we use. So, if you're gonna drink wine, this is a good option. So, should we try it?
Yeah, let's drink some wine. Okay.
So I get to do the bad part of trying it. Okay.
You bet. Okay, so the first wine we're having is a Macon. There's the label.
So we have one question there. Audrey, hi Audrey. She loves red wine, and what's better, red or white wine? Do you have an answer for that?
Well, I would say white wine, only because it tends to have lower alcohol, and that some people do have issues with the tannins that come from the skins, and you don't have that. There's no skin contact with white wine. So, I'm sure you've heard people say, I get a red wine headache, so they can only drink white wine.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you go to parties, if you drink red wine, you're usually going to get your teeth get stained and stuff.
Yeah,
so that's another reason to drink white wine.
Yeah, but red wine is
from
good.
Getting stained.
I just gotta drink a little, very little, because I do, Audrey, I wake up in the middle of the night. I've heard a lot more from women than men. I don't know why, but that red wine, sort of like affects your sleep more than anything else.
Yep.
Okay, so
totally
we're going to try on your behalf. I'll tell you that. So what do we have
so
here?
the one on the left, this is the Macon. So when we're talking about white Burgundies that are in this kind of this entry level, then that's $20 to $28 or something. You're either going to be looking for names that say like Burgundy, which means that it's just a white Burgundy from anywhere in the Burgundy region. It's not going to be the fancy vineyards; those cost a lot more. Or Macon, like this one. Or Pouilly-Fussé, that's one that a lot of people have heard about. So these are kind of regions where you get these more entry levels. There's usually next to no oak or no oak on these wines. And we smell it and we swirl it, right? And if you take a little sip of it, see, that's what Chardonnay is really supposed to taste like. That's what it's about.
This is really good. Is this the one we're drinking? So here's I'll post it when I so you can come back and you'll know about Robin, but also we'll say which wines she brought today.
And you can actually buy these through me at starklandsellers.com. So
so this is a $20 one?
Yeah, it's like $23.
I love it. I mean, it's really good. Yeah.
I mean,
she's taught me that you don't have to spend money. I used to be, if you want a good wine, just go for the most you can spend, and it's not true. I mean, when I go with her, I save money and drink better wines.
We say any dum-dum can find a great $100 bottle. It's like finding the great 20.
I'm the dum-dum. You're not with me. Let's just all bring her with us everywhere. I've had the best trips when I travel with her because we just drink fabulous wine, meet wonderful people. I mean, she's just...
We ride our bikes all over Italy and have a blast.
Okay, I love it.
So that is, that is an example of how a white Burgundy does not have to be really, really lean. People think it's going to be lean, but that is a very rich glass of wine. And it's made by a woman, by the way, Grand Pré.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So now we're going to go for the next wine. This is a Saint-Aubin, and you can smell it. Really has a lot of that hazelnut nutty thing.
I think I like hazelnut and nutty.
And so one of the things that you'll find...
I got a visitor here. This is Allie. Everybody meet Allie.
So one of the things you can do when you're looking for wines that are at this higher level, this is going to be anywhere from $35 to $60, are these Premier Crus. And so you see that on the label, it says Premier Cru. And Premier Cru you're kind of used to seeing with Puligny Montrachet and Chazan Montrachet and Meursault. Well, those are a little more expensive. So I'm a big fan of these ones from Saint-Aubin because they also are Premier Cru. They're also this very high level, better than your Bourgognes. But this is like a $42 bottle of wine. It's very comparable to California.
What would
Chardonnay.
you say the nose and I guess once you tasted the mouth would be in comparison?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting so much of that really kind of hazelnut that I just love in white Burgundy, and it comes from the terroir. Like in California, to get this, they put in tons and tons of oak, and that's one of the problems with California Chardonnay. It's so oaky, it doesn't really go well with food. But the flavor, that same kind of more nutty, savory flavor that you get from Burgundies, most white Burgundies, is really coming from the terroir. It's coming from the land that it grows on. The limestone and the clay soils bring this kind of flavor. Because this wine actually doesn't see any new oak. It's aged in oak barrels, but they're older oak barrels that wouldn't impart a lot of oak flavor like these California Chardonnays that will go nameless. But it's still, you can still smell that wonderful hazelnutty, savory flavor. Yeah,
and for all of you that just joined us, this is again organic wine, so it's better for you, lower alcohol, less sulfites, and doesn't affect as much your sleep. For all of us who suffer with red wine, this is a much better alternative. And what would you say the right temperature for these type of wines is?
Oh, good question, really good question. As we say, when you have bad wine, what should you do? Chill it. Then, you can drink any wine really cold and you can't taste it, right? Same with bad beer. But with white Burgundy, you should always serve it just a little bit cooler than you would with red wine, room temperature red wine, because then all the flavors come out,
Yeah, because it's like, if you were to, it is a little on the warmer side, you would say, oh my God, it's not cool, chill, but yeah, no, she always will like get mad at you if you actually like
That's
better wine. So,
That's right, because you can't take that. And they say at most restaurants in America, they serve the red wines too warm and the white wines too cold.
Yeah, that's
because they're in a cold refrigerator, and that's just not good.
And to I don't know if there's anything else we're missing, but we definitely are gonna put the names of the wines and her contact, and so that you can. What would we pair this? What are some great alternatives to pair it with?
Oh, really good question. Well, it's white wines. We always, they're told, they go well with lighter soups, seafood, obviously. Shellfish, that kind of thing, cheeses, like this kind of nutty flavor. You bring this along with a nutty cheese and it just is fabulous. Or you take something like a brie, paired with this, and the more crisper aspects of this, go along with the brie real well, because those are two different flavors. So, it's your typical white wine type food, but again, unlike California Chardonnay, which is so oaky and so buttery, those things almost fight. They almost fight with the food. Mm-hmm. And these kind of white Burgundies go along so much better.
Well, have we missed anything that we wanted to cover?
I don't think so. I just wanted to point out, when you are looking at these kind of wines, do look for what the alcohol content is, because I can see right here, 13% alcohol.
What is California Chardonnay?
Anywhere from 14.5 to 16.
Okay.
And that's a good 10 to 20% more if you figure out the math there. And so just like you would feel with food.
Yeah. So this one is actually my favorite. It's the Premier Clou sur le Sentier du Clou, Saint-Aubin.
Very nice.
Un petit peu. It's 13.5%, and it's just so smooth and good. I mean, really, after you get a little used to this, which I'm glad I did, and I did it out of necessity, because I just couldn't take the sweetness of the Chardonnays anymore, because my taste buds changed, and also my body reacts to the toxins. It still reacts a little to wine, so I don't recommend drinking wine every night. I do it on special occasions if I don't have to work the next day very intensely, or I don't have to be on TV or some crazy stuff, because I'm not gonna be for sure as rested, as sharp, and as clear-headed. So, with that in mind, you decide when and how much you drink. So I do enjoy it with good friends, a little bit, and then not very often, so I can give my liver some rest between days.
Ooh, that does remind me of one little tip that I got from my friend Ron, who was told by his nutritionist he shouldn't drink every day anymore. He was having some toxin issues. And so what he now does, because just like me, he likes the ritual of having a little glass of wine at the end of the day, after, you're done working, or, with dinner. So now he takes a really nice champagne glass and he fills it with kombucha tea, ginger kombucha tea. And it looks like you're drinking champagne. It tastes a little like champagne, so at least you get your ritual, even though you're not drinking wine.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for meeting my dear friend Robin. And I look forward to sharing more crazy stories that I come up with. But I think we'll have maybe some other things. Maybe we'll talk the next time about some of the healthier or the less impactful red wines for some of us who gets affected by red wine, right?
That's a great idea.
Okay.
But now it's time for dinner, so we're
until next time. I hope I didn't burn the dinner, because now that I think about it, I don't know if I put a timer. Okay, whatever.